New World Order. The New World Order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
How can I convince you when your ears refuse to hear? You turn your heart away from me each time that I draw near. Your eyes refuse to meet with mine, they glance away in fear. As if you said that look at you, reflection in fear. Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show? My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee, maybe you'll learn something. We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. So well it doesn't show. How can I contain this anguish and this pain, knowing that your eyes are blinded by the light?
He is the free American, Clay Douglas. That's the Free American, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger wells inside me till I'm almost overcome. I want to tear the moon out of the sky and drop the sun. Why do I go through all of this? I got the only one.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
It's only those in darkness who divide eternity, like babies who thunder in the shadows of the night. They break inside and enter through the windows of your mind. How can
One cross hands, all I need is a big road up. Homemade ice cream and barbecue and the family on Friday nights. Diddling lamb on Saturday right before the morning light. Came time, eyes opened up and I learned about the gun. And every night at supper time I answered what I done. Today wasn't gone now the way it used to be. But games on TV, a burning hill, fire sale my rights away from me. It's high time we embrace the tool that keeps all men free.
When realms from radio business thus rising across this great United States, and that means straight from the heart of Texas, it is time for Clayton Douglas, the Free American. Take it away, Clayton.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I am your host. I am Clay Douglas. And I am talking to you today. You know, I've been doing this show for a lot of years. I've been doing this show for a lot of years. I put everybody on here, from Muslims to Jews, Christians, witches, Satanists, Illuminati. At least that's what they say they are. At least that's what they tell us over the internet. And to be truthful, since the last 10 years, I've really become more of an isolationist. And for fairly good reasons, when people are trying to kill you, when people are trying to destroy you, when people are calling you names, or when people call up several hundred stockholders in a company that just bought one of my companies and threatened to crash their stock if they put me on their staff, if they bought my magazine that I had sold for $500,000. And I had to go I've been doing this radio show to put it all back together again, keep this radio show going. After the magazine was taken away, after it was all suddenly, in the blink of an eye, everything was gone. Now, I believe that this was done based on all of the information we've gotten in the last 10 years. What's in mainstream news right now, suddenly Congress is worried about somebody tapping your phones, and I told you they were tapping mine 10 years ago. And I'd like to ask you, if you're listening to this show right now, I'd like to ask you, and I'll take your calls. I believe we've got a call number here, 347-688-2902. I don't want to hear about, what you think they ought to do with this law or that law, or make this change or change. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about what somebody else should do. Well, Clay, you just do so much better if you didn't talk about the Jews, Clay. I mean, you do a lot better, Clay, if you just talk bad about Muslims. If you talk bad about the Muslims, I'm pretty sure I could get you on CNN. This is a method of control, and I've watched the way they've done this over 25 years. Over the last 25 years, folks, I've gone through the Patriot movement. I've gone through the paraphernalia industry. I've helped with to get these medical marijuana laws passed by promoting NORML and promoting Jack Herer book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. I helped finance him when I was writing this. I've been in this fight a long time. And it is a war. And it's basically a war good against evil, and the evil ones are sitting over there calling the good guys the bad guys. What part of the second... Yeah, I started the militia. What part of the Second Amendment don't you understand? And the people that came after me when I started this magazine, when I started this radio show, they were Jewish organizations. Does that make me anti-Semitic? Do I think all Jews are out to get you? No, that's the way the Jews do it. That's the way the propaganda people do it. This is how the Edward Bernays that are being paid big bucks to manipulate your mind. It's how they're making their money. They don't want you listening to someone like Clay Douglas. And I want to tell you, I want to tell you here what we're up against. You know, anytime somebody comes around, what, you gonna pass the Jews again? You are playing into the hands of the SPLC. Now, Southern Poverty Law Center promotes itself as a dedicated watchdog of hate and racism in America, pitching a perpetual message that the nation is boiling over with intolerance, hate, racism. The truth, according to so many well-researched exposés, is that the incredibly wealthy Southern Poverty Law Center shamelessly panders to people's fears and profiteers from liberal white guilt in order to line its overflowing coffers. The SPLC was founded in 1971 by Morris Dees, an Alabama attorney, with an allegedly questionable personal background. Since its foundings raised hundreds of millions of dollars, outing individuals and organizations they claim to be right-wing hate groups. And in this chat room, if you are calling me a racist or an anti-Semite, you are probably without your knowledge, and we can blame it on the dumbing down of the schools. We can blame it on the medications that you're probably taking. You're working for Southern Poverty Law. You're trying to accomplish. They wanted you, and I got $1 million worth of publicity, all of it negative, from the ADL when they put me in armed and dangerous. I called them up in New York. I said, you know what, you got Clay Douglas here. I'm the Free American, and you finally got something right, man. I am armed, and if you're messing with my family or my country, I'm definitely dangerous. Southern Poverty Law, when I was working with the first Republican to sign up for the presidential race in 1996, his name was Charles Collins, the Southern Poverty Law attacked me and Charles. They attacked us they put out a little brochure called False Patriots, and there was me and Charlie Duke and Colorado senator that was a little outspoken about freedom issues, and Charles Collins, who every time he got up at the Republican commissions and the Republican caucuses, he would try to tell Republicans we can buy back the Federal Reserve, we can wipe out this $6 trillion debt, which is more than doubled now, or tripled, and may go up again. We don't even know if we're going to get our Social Security checks on the 3rd, because Obama may not be able to send them to you, people on Social Security. You are under attack in every sense of the term. And if you're calling me a racist when I'm trying to stop another Waco from happening, when I'm trying to tell you what you can do, what steps you can take, where you can hook up, where you can work with people together, not militias. If you're starting a militia, you want to go into a militia, do it with the sheriff. Do it with the county. And I'm going to talk more about that as the show goes on here. But the issues that I talk about are the issues that Southern Poverty Law and the ADL put down. Now, the Southern Poverty Law, in the year that ended October 31st, 2005, on its IRS Form 990, declared that of its $28.9 million in expenses, only $4.5 million were spent on providing legal services for victims of civil rights injustice and hate crimes, and that $837,907 was spent on specific assistance to individuals in the form of litigation services. Yet during the same period, SPLC paid Morris Dees salary and pension plan contributions amounting to $297,559. Stephen Bright called Dees a fraud and a con man, and He's the director of Southern Center for Human Rights, which actually takes on dozens of death penalty appeals for poor blacks every year. Once told him, "You spend so much, accomplish so little, and support and promote yourself so shamelessly." The entire SPLC legal staff resigned in protest in 1986, disgusted with Dees' refusal to address issues important to poor minorities such as homelessness, voter registration, and affirmative action, issues which appear to be much less marketable to the affluent benefactors than fighting the KKK. Several years later, attorney Gloria Brown resigned, stating to reporters that SPLC's programs were designed to cash in on black pain and white guilt. Now, just to give you an example, Morris Dees won a judgment for a black woman whose son was killed by a Klansman. She received $51,875 as settlement. Mr. Dees, according to an investigation by the Montgomery Advertiser, pulled in $9 million from fundraising solicitation letters that featured a particularly gruesome photograph of the grieving mother's son. Mr. Dees, who pays himself an annual salary of $275,000, offered the grieving mother none of the $9 million her son's death made for him. And they've struck gold by capitalizing on the perceived threat of racism in America. And this is what I'm trying to tell you folks in the chat room. When you are trying to say, make caustic comments about me, talking about Jews like Morris Dees, no, you think all Jews are like Morris Dees? No, I don't think all the Jews are paying themselves $275,000 a year to slam people like Clay Douglas. And I don't want to see Americans that actually care about this country, that are listening to this radio station because we're talking about the issues that are out there, Obamacare and everything else. They're not stupid. They don't make us there. If they were, they occasionally make a mistake in our favor. We don't need to work for them. I mean, we just don't need to work for them. And let's see what we got. I don't know what AFK means. Are we okay here? Where are we? Get. Ah, okay. Well, I'm glad to see it's nothing serious here. Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that I was away from the keyboard, so if you were to address me, I would be able to jump to the microphone right away. So when you see AFK, that just means I'm away from the keyboard.
Okay. All right. I won't panic anymore. Now, folks, this is a multi-million-dollar operation. Their hate sells, and this is what they're doing. I mean, they're still going after David Duke, and I was going to talk about his latest book on communism, and I know that he's going to link it to Jews because the Jews themselves will brag about, some people call it communism, but I call it Judaism for the masses, says Rabbi Weiss. Now, I'm not going to give Southern Poverty Law any new ammo. They will tell you that Clay Douglas started the militia. They just don't tell you that I did it in the governor's office. That governor was Governor Gary Johnson. He ran for president. And if we had an honest media, he would have. Now, here's just for your statistics here, the Ku Klux Klan that they try to throw up to David Duke for being a member of at one time. He says that's the SPLC's most lucrative nemesis. It's shrunk from 4 million members in the 20s to an estimated 2,000 a day, and as many as 10% of whom are thought to be FBI informants. But news of the declining Klan does not make for inclining donation to Morris Dees and Company, which is why the SPLC honors nearly every nationally covered hate crime with direct mail alarms full of nightmares, invocations of armed Klan paramilitary forces and violent neo-Nazi extremists, and why Dees does legal battle almost exclusively with mediagenic villains like Idaho's arch-Aryan Richard Butler, eager to show off their swastika for the news cameras. Campaign, and that's who they chose. You can have my gun, but I can take it from my cold, dead fingers. These campaigns of smear and guilt by the association have always proven lucrative in terms of fundraiser. Realizing the decline of the size of their most lucrative opponent, the SPLC quickly concocted a new one. Immediately, a new racism was to be found. Racists and nativists, xenophobes, hate-mongers were certainly to be discovered lurking under every rock. Particularly attractive targets were immigration reformists who wanted American laws enforced and illegal immigration halted. A new McCarthyism was born. Conservative writers have observed that to be called a racist today is akin to the label communist in the 50s. Indeed, the SPLC's tactics are hard to distinguish from those of the late Senator Joe McCarthy, who was also a fan of guilt by association. How many people, Jews in Hollywood got labeled as a communist? And are they proud of that? Do they do that? And if I point out to you, as David Ducasse, as many people throughout the years have, including Jews who identified their 13th tribe as the Khazars, Jews like Benjamin Friedman, who told you who started World War I, World War II, when it was over, why they did that. Now, I've told you that NAFTA, and we told you this was going to happen 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when we were warning you about NAFTA. The NAFTA has driven the poorer farmers over here, and the SPLC appears to have crawled in bed with the subversive La Raza Open Borders Network to attack those who support United States immigration laws. By sharing a common opponent who both can profit from joining forces to attack against good Americans who are concerned about the future. Again, that's why I do this. Morris Dees and Southern Poverty Law and the ADL and the B'nai B'rith, they are the hate seekers. They scour the landscape for hate like arms manufacturers inventing new threats for the same reason. It's their staple. But the Southern Poverty Law Center, for the listeners who may not know it, is an organization that specializes in finding offenses they can raise money around, and that was Wesley Pruden, the editor-in-chief of the Washington Times. In recent years, the SPLC has recently provided legal representations for illegal aliens. In 2005, it represented 2 El Salvadorians in a lawsuit against the group Ranch Rescue, which was charged with using force to prevent aliens from illegally sneaking across the border into the United States. That one paragraph there is important, folks, because, again, you need to know the whole story I had just gotten out of the hospital a few months before. I was struggling to put the Free American back together again. And Casey called me up. I had helped Casey get out of jail. A few months earlier on my shortwave show. He was a diabetic. The sheriff's department in there's a little Texas county wasn't getting him his medicine, his insulin. So I put it on shortwave, and we put the phone number out there, and we got it all going. We got him loose. He went to court in Texas, got a hung jury because the two illegals accused him of pistol whipping. Then he called me up and said, "Clay, I want to help you get the Free American out again. We got a problem. I got a 70-acre ranch down here in Douglas, Arizona. Come down and do an interview with me. Come down here and talk to me." Hey, Casey, I appreciate you offering to help, man, but doing a magazine's an expensive thing. Clay, I got $1.5 million in one account. Money's not an issue. Oh, buy me breakfast, man. I'll be down in the morning. I was there in the morning, but I couldn't see him because supposedly the FBI had shot him coming out of Safeway with my breakfast. That's it. They didn't kill him, but they did end up putting him in prison when he got found guilty on the second time. On the second time going to trial on the charge of pistol whipping, so he did a little time in a Texas penitentiary. All I knew was Casey had disappeared at the time. And then I saw him on 60 Minutes. He got on 60 Minutes because Southern Poverty Law, representing the two illegal aliens, sued him and got a default judgment since Casey was in Texas, tied up in a court in Texas. They stole a 70-acre ranch. Also, the Free American didn't get started again. This is Southern Poverty Law, folks. This is what they do. This is they're the Mossad. If you talk bad about Israel, if the churches don't get you, if the Benny Hinn's or whoever you got out there, I don't keep up with the latest Christian disciples trying to send, let's send donations to Israel. The Bible says, if you don't support these Jews, whoa, who wrote the Bible? Oh, that was Schofield. Oh, that was in the notations. So, if you were trying to keep me from talking about the Rothschilds, the Warburgs, the Southern Poverty Law types, Abraham Foxman, ADL, then you're working for them. You are working for your enslavers. Now, here's an interesting way to look at it. Columnist Preston James did an article, Secret Space War 5, 6. Dead humans by the millions. The real alien agenda? That's there it goes. What if it was? Now, in the government documents, they talk quiet weapons, silent weapons, quiet wars. They talk about creating an alien agenda. If aliens attack, we see that on the television all the time. Aliens just took over LA. Aliens did this. Aliens did that. Whether it's aliens or whether it's I believe that we got two classes of people. We got the rulers that run around in UFOs, and we've got the rest of us that take the jet aircraft and think we're doing something hot. They don't want you to know that we could have lunch on the moon and be back in time for supper. Without using a drop of gasoline. Preston James says, unless Americans wake up from their slumber and take their country back from the neocon, Zionist hijackers, and infiltrators who appear to be operating according to an alien agenda run out of the City of London financial district, it certainly seems they are destined to become dead by the millions in the streets, towns, and countrysides of the land their forefathers conquered and then freed from English colonial tyranny. And unless stopped cold in its tracks, it now appears that the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, the new American Gestapo, is now being morphed into a new Bolshevik-style American Cheka designed to deploy tyranny, terror, and mass murder inside the United States, continental United States. Now, let me just stop there for a second and tell you that over 10 years ago, I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting. I've got Colonel John Brinkerhoff on tape telling you this. So, in case of a single outbreak of smallpox, a disease that's been eliminated in this country for 100 years, except for 2 government labs. And he said we'll be in for a long war. This war will be fought on American soil. I put that over 10 years ago, and of course they tried to kill me. Now, we tried to tell you about this Zeo bankers who run out of the City of London financial district, especially Africa. They're evidently, that's where it appears the private mercenary forces run by the U.S. government. Infiltrators have been deployed. U.S. government private mercenary contractors to divide and conquer, depopulate, subdue Africa in order to prepare it for the first large population of aliens that has been rumored to be planning to migrate here in the not too distant future after Africa has been suitably prepared or terraformed. Now, I got no idea if that's true, but I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. They are telling us that something's going to happen. They've showed us how 2012. They're showing us World War Z. They're showing the zombie movies. That could be conditioning you to think of all of these people as simply brain-dead zombies that need to be mowed down, instead of thinking of them as what probably they really are, hungry people. And that's one of the things that we have to address. Now, I started the militias and started on this whole patriot organization, bringing the militias on the air, the good ones, trying to go through this, finding out the people that were real, finding out who the Dennis Lees were in the patriot movement. So I'm still just doing the work that I started doing 25 years ago. And what I'm planning now, if we can all get the support, because if you're sitting there nitpicking at me, then you're helping to destroy yourself. I'm not looking to get rich off anybody out there. I want to sell some books, because I think you ought to read my books. They're pretty good. And I took a lot of time writing, taking more time writing. If you like to read, I've been told by a lot of people that these are enjoyable and good. But more important than that, in my opinion, I have reached into the future. I have looked into the future. And some of the fiction that you haven't read yet shows you, gives you an idea. Even the first chapter in One Bloody Alabaster Eye gives you an idea of a future we've got to look forward to. I wonder what that was. Okay. All right. Whether we've got a lot of talk about aliens, ancient aliens. Yeah, they're going to return. Yeah, Nibiru's going to come by. Yeah, maybe. But the universe is a big place. And probably whatever we can imagine is occurring somewhere, maybe in multiple universes. You know, maybe in one universe I got killed by that sports car by those people that were trying to mow me down. Maybe in another universe I got killed when I slid off the highway. And that's happened more than once. But what we've got right now, we've got an escalating war. Let's just put it aside. Maybe it's the space aliens. Maybe it's Council on Foreign Relations. Maybe it's the UN. Maybe it's the oil companies. Maybe it's the corporation. But somebody out there. And they are employing their own private mercenaries to divide and conquer. They want you putting me down. They put people in the chat room to put me down to see if they can get something going. Let's razz Clay. Let's see what we can say here. Let's see. Oh, I bet I can get him this time. I bet I can get him with this. Now, what good does that accomplish? And here's what I want to know. Our calling number is 347-688-2902. What are you going to do? What are you doing? I'm going on this show. I'm doing the show. I'm doing 2 hours every morning. Not to scare you to death. Yeah, there's a world government. Yeah, they made it real clear. If you read the headlines, you read between the lines, you'll see that they got a world government. They got it. They've been trying and working on it for 100 years. So they got it. So maybe that means, what does that mean? That means that they're probably right about me. I am definitely anti-government if the government that our founding fathers left us has gone corrupt. What part of that? What part of that don't you understand? And that's the way we have to operate. Now, what I'm proposing here And again, our phone call is 347-688-2902. It's not to take your guns away. And it's getting worse. It's getting worse. Somebody just sent me an email here that Oakland wants to ban hammers, wrenches, tripods, walking canes, shields, other tools of vandalism, and a disarmament push. It could be closer than you think. Now, what I'm proposing here is that all of us, all of our hosts, all of the people that are listening to Revolution Radio, Revolution, good named, good name. We have, it's not really a revolution, it's a revelation. We have to get back to being more self-sufficient. Otherwise, we're a number and we're marching in the choir to the gas chambers. And if we do this, if we start thinking one more time in a family manner, how do we change this? We work together. Now I'm talking about a co-op. You have to join a co-op. You got to give up some cash, address and all that, not letting any trolls, troublemakers, con artists into the co-op. But when you join the co-op, you're either a producer or you're a consumer. I think we got to concentrate more on being producers than being consumers. I think that's what we need to do. And if you're not producing, if you're not doing something to help, then you're out of the co-op. If you're in the co-op, you're going to be producing something, whether it's you know, hot peppers that you grow in your backyard garden, or solar panels or windmills that you build in your garage. I propose that this co-op be founded and run. It's libertyvillagecoop.com by Revolution Radio, by a panel, at least 12 hosts that have shows on Revolution, because we have to all promote this together. Now, what I'm proposing, this council of 12 would be responsible, at least one of us would be responsible for checking out any of the members of the co-op. If you've got something that you want to sell, if you got food, if you've got a product that you want to sell to the members of the co-op, we got to know who you are, and we got to approve it. So that's I propose that the co-op pays its expenses from 10%, and they get 10% above whatever the cost is to underwrite the expenses. So if we buy cases of coffee at wholesale, everybody gets their coffee at wholesale plus 10%. Just easy to figure that way. And it gives us a way to pay the internet bills. We do this county by county. We can't do it alone. We got to do it all together. We got to do it more than one person. And we do it county by county in the counties where we got a constitutional sheriff. And He ain't constitutional. By the time we get the publicity on it, he will be. This is a way to enhance the idea, bringing the country back to the city. To hell with the neighborhood association, to hell with zoning. You got a right to grow your own food. You got a right to use your land the way you want. And if we all work together, I've already located attorneys that will do work on pro se. They say you got a right to grow your own food. We've got cities, model legislation for cities that are passing ordinances that say feds stay out. We'll check our own tomatoes out. Thank you. And the police state is here. You just probably weren't aware of it because you didn't have any good connection for grass, but the police state's been here for 40 or 50 years or more, 100 years, 1913. And they're going to keep adding this law, adding that law, until you are totally enslaved. You may not like it. It may not be what you want. Then the time to do something about it is now. You kind of got to put your foot down, and we have to do it as a people. Now, divide and conquer is what they try to do. They don't want you working together. They don't want you listening to a leader. And then we all bitch about our leaders. Well, the leader, well, he was bought out. He took over. He did this. He did that. Find something wrong with the leader. And the opposition, if he really is a leader, the opposition will work on it. Well, Clay's a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He don't like Jews. He hates Jews, you know. No, that's not true. Whoever, I don't know what my neighbor is over there. Maybe it's a Catholic. Maybe they're Jewish. But if I go over and say, can I borrow your ladder button? He loans it to me. If it's good for me and my house, it should be good for you and your house. And I think that's the way we have to approach it. Again, we should have a charter. Now, in the co-op in Oklahoma, they've already got the whole groundwork out. We'd have to have one member join that co-op, so we got specifics on how they could divide the cost of the food up. And this is kind of what I've been trying to say to you. We had an idea in the 60s. We stopped the whole Vietnam War, smoking, listening to music, having a good time, selling peace symbols all over the southern part of the states. We stopped it. We can do that again. We have to find something to hook up to. We have to, we've got the Bill of Rights. Every organization, we're sitting around watching these trolls come into these organizations. Well, where are we going to go? Well, boy, shouldn't we become a 501c3? Shouldn't we become this? Shouldn't we do this? Shouldn't we do this? You got the Bill of Rights, man. That's all you need. That should be your whole game plan, their Bill of Rights. Why can't you do that? Why can't we do that? And, we've already got the Liberty Villages. Our ancestors built them. They're small towns all across Texas. They got people that live there. If we made those people more productive, if we made better use of their resources, better use of their land, and we supported them, And vice versa, they would support us, because a lot of these small towns, you got farms right outside of town. I think we got Liberty Villages. I think we got the people that saw the future and went out and started farming again, started growing these organics. You couldn't have this much organic stuff in the supermarkets and the health food stores around the country if there weren't a hell of a lot of people doing that. We don't have to let Monsanto poison us forever. Fluoride, aluminum, they're poisoning us. But I got water in there. I got good water in there. Good for my coffee cup. The point is, they have tried to stop me. They have tried to silence me. And Revolution gave me the opportunity to be on this show, so I'm able to communicate. I'm giving Revolution this whole 10-year plan or plus of Liberty Villages, including the websites. Need help with them. Everybody rises to their own level of competence. Mine might be the website. I couldn't have done it last month, 2 months ago. I couldn't have done it before March 15th. Now we can do it. And once we get these co-ops started county to county, personally, I'd like to travel there. I'd like to meet the people. I'd like to welcome to this radio show. I'd like to say, look, we got answers. Just listen to everybody that I've interviewed over the last month. We've got people that are talking about free energy. We've got people that are talking about solar. We've got people that are talking about everything that's important here. And what we're talking about is our survival. And it's more, it has to be a change. It has to be a change in education. It has to be a change in the way we think. It ain't just good for me now, is it good for everybody in my neighborhood? And by banding together and talking common sense solutions with our neighbors, we work all the kinks out until we start talking to neighborhoods as a whole and providing a little bit of guidance. Now, I don't, we can argue about Christianity, you can argue about Judaism, you can stick your nose in the sand there and pray to make all you want. First Amendment allows you to do that. But we also have to prepare. We have to figure out, what do we do if? What if this is true? What if these people are coming at it? Now, have Americans actually been financing their own future mass murder by DHS complements of the bought-and-owned, blackmailed, human-compromised, bankster-controlled Congress and executives who are serving as puppet to these offshore bankster forces? Now, they got it right, folks. It's the banks that are doing this. And arguing about whether Rothschild was a Jew or whatever he was, it doesn't matter. This City of London central bankster bunch could be controlled by an evil alien force, perhaps best referred to as the Third Force, which has been alleged to have developed a super class of alien human hybrids who run all the central banking of the free world and have been appointed and anointed by Lucifer to earn some enormous inhuman profits by the use of pernicious usury, because they have entered into some strange blood covenant with evil. And I think that's about as much a bullshit as we can handle today. But it does seem that this group is essentially functioning as a worldwide death cult It's interesting to note that some who have left this group claim it receives its power to run the world by creating worldwide 24/7 human sacrifice to Lucifer, whom they worship as their god through wars, pestilence, violence, starvation, and high-tech eugenics or soft kill. Now, I could almost agree with the idea, but I think Lucifer might have been the good guy, and the bad guy was the bloodthirsty Jewish god and the Yahweh in the Old Testament. But again, that's nitpicking. We've got a power in this world, and they're represented by the ADL, they're represented by Southern Poverty Law, who have tried to silence. They don't want you buying my books. They don't want you thinking differently. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.